In a small coastal kingdom called Alaoma, nestled between the lush forest and the roaring Atlantic Ocean, lived Queen Oluchi, a woman of great beauty and ambition. Though her rule was strong and her people loyal, the queen carried a heavy burden. She had no child of her own. Despite prayers, sacrifices, and offerings to the gods, the royal cradle remained empty, a fact that brought whispers among the villagers. One fateful night, during the full moon, Queen Oluchi wandered to the shores, her heart weighed down by sorrow. The waves danced silver under the moonlight, and as the tide receded, she spotted something extraordinary, a child lying on the wet sands, wrapped in seaweed. The baby girl had skin smooth as silk, hair as black as the night, and eyes as bright as the ocean's depths. The queen's heart leapt with joy. "The gods have answered my prayers," she whispered, picking up the child. Without a second thought, Queen Oluchi carried the baby to the palace, unaware that this was no ordinary child. The villagers who saw her return with the baby were filled with awe, believing the queen had received a divine blessing. The night Queen Oluchi carried the baby away, the ocean churned with rage. Deep beneath the waves, Neoma, the queen of the sea, sat upon her coral throne, sensing that something was terribly wrong. A mother's instinct told her that her child, Adana, was no longer within her realm. Her golden crown, adorned with shells and pearls, dimmed as she let out a piercing cry that reverberated through the depths of the ocean. "Who dares steal my child from the waters?" Neoma's voice echoed through the sea, shaking even the largest whales. Her council of sea spirits gathered around her, trembling in fear. "They have violated the sacred balance, Your Majesty," said Udo, her chief advisor, a sleek, ancient eel with glowing eyes. "No mortal is permitted to keep what belongs to the sea." Neoma rose, her tail shimmering like liquid gold. She extended her hand, and the water around her began to swirl violently. With her immense power, she summoned the tides and sent waves crashing against the shoreline of Alaoma. The waters carried her voice to the mortals on land, a warning that chilled the hearts of the villagers. That night, as the villagers lay in their huts, they were startled awake by the distant sound of wailing carried by the winds. It was a sound unlike any they had ever heard, a sorrowful, mournful cry that pierced through their very souls. The sea roared louder than ever, and lightning flashed across the sky. From the depths of the storm, Neoma's voice rose above the chaos, echoing through the winds, "Return, my child, or face the wrath of the sea. No mortal who defies the oceans will shall prosper." The villagers cowered in fear. Some ran to the palace to warn the queen, begging her to return the child to the ocean. But Queen Oluchi, blinded by her joy and maternal longing, ignored their pleas. "It's just a storm," she insisted, pacing the royal chambers as Adana slept peacefully. "The gods would not have given me this child only to take her away." The next day, the storm subsided, but strange things began to happen in Alaoma. Fishermen returned from the ocean empty-handed, their nets torn and boats damaged. Crops near the coast withered overnight, and the river that provided water for the kingdom turned murky and bitter. Villagers whispered among themselves, convinced that these were signs of Neoma's wrath. That evening, the queen received another warning. As she walked through the royal gardens, a mysterious woman appeared out of nowhere. She was cloaked in shimmering blue, her hair flowing like seaweed, her eyes as deep and cold as the ocean. The air around her was damp and heavy, and every step she took left puddles in her wake. "Who are you, and how dare you trespass into the royal gardens?" Queen Oluchi demanded, though her voice wavered. The woman did not answer immediately. Instead, she gazed at the queen with a piercing stare before speaking in a voice that was both soft and powerful, like the waves lapping against the shore. "You have taken what does not belong to you," the woman said. "The child you cradle so dearly is not a gift from the gods. She is a daughter of the sea, born to Queen Neoma, the ruler of the waters." The queen's face paled, but she stood firm. "If this child is truly from the sea, then it is the gods who brought her to me." I have prayed, I have fasted, I have offered sacrifices. She is my answer. The woman's eyes darkened, her voice growing colder. The sea does not give freely, Queen Oluchi. It always reclaims what is hers. Return Adana now, or you will unleash a curse upon this land that no prayer can undo. Before the queen could respond, the woman vanished, leaving only the faint scent of salt in the air. Queen Oluchi dismissed the warning as the ramblings of a madwoman, though her hands trembled as she held the child. As days turned into weeks, the warnings became impossible to ignore. The once calm ocean grew violent, its waves crashing higher and closer to the kingdom's borders. The villagers heard whispers in the wind, voices they could not explain, murmuring of doom. Fishermen began seeing visions of a golden-tailed mermaid in the depths, her eyes glowing with sorrow and rage. Some claimed she spoke directly to them. Tell your queen, the sea always reclaims its own. Frightened and desperate, the villagers approached the palace once more. This time, they knelt before Queen Oluchi, tears streaming down their faces. Your Majesty, they pleaded, the ocean is alive with fury. Return the child before it is too late. Our crops fail, our rivers dry, and the fish no longer come to our shores. The sea warns us, yet you refuse to listen. But Queen Oluchi, though shaken, held firm. This child is my blessing. I will not give her up. As the villagers left, one of the elder women turned back and said, Mark my words, Your Majesty. The sea is patient, but it is relentless. It will not stop until it takes what is rightfully hers. That night, as Queen Oluchi lay awake in her chambers, clutching Adana tightly, she heard the unmistakable sound of waves crashing against the palace walls. The voice of Neoma echoed louder than ever before, filling the air with a chilling proclamation. Return my daughter, or face the fury of the sea. There will be no mercy. It was a warning that would haunt Queen Oluchi, yet she still refused to act, setting the stage for the tragedy that would follow. At first, Queen Oluchi's love for Adana seemed pure, a desperate mother who had finally been blessed with a child after years of longing. She doted on the baby, watching her every smile, every coo, and every movement with adoration. But as time passed, her love became something darker. She began to see Adana not just as her daughter but as a symbol of power, a divine token meant to solidify her place as queen and elevate her legacy in the eyes of her people. The villagers had started to revere her even more. A queen blessed by the gods, they murmured, bowing lower than ever in her presence. Foreign emissaries brought gifts to the palace, eager to see the child that was rumored to have magical blessings. With Adana, Oluchi gained more influence, her rule seemingly destined to last forever. The queen began to indulge in this newfound adoration. The baby was not just her child, she was her proof of what, the answer to the unspoken whispers that had once mocked her barrenness. Every compliment and offering from the villagers fed Oluchi's pride. She started to think, perhaps I was chosen, set apart for greatness. Adana is mine, and mine alone. As Adana grew, her unusual abilities became more apparent. Water followed her wherever she went, fountains bubbled higher, streams sparkled in her presence, and even the driest gardens flourished under her touch. Queen Oluchi noticed this and kept it a secret from outsiders, but she couldn't help marveling at the power her daughter possessed. However, these dreams were rooted in selfishness, not love. Oluchi's thoughts were consumed not by Adana's happiness or well-being but by what the child could provide. She began issuing proclamations to her servants. Adana must not leave the palace grounds, she ordered, under the pretense of protecting her. She is too special, too valuable to risk. Adana's growing powers became a source of paranoia for the queen. If others knew the extent of her gifts, they might seek to take her away, Oluchi reasoned. She dismissed the pleas of the villagers, the warnings from elders, and the signs of the sea's unrest, all in the name of maintaining her grip on the child. When the mysterious woman in the garden warned her, Queen Oluchi's fear of losing Adana was overshadowed by her greed. What if they want to take her? She thought. She is my blessing, my proof that I am destined for greatness. No one, not even the sea, can claim her. Determined to keep Adana hidden, the queen began spreading her own stories. She told the villagers that Adana was not from the sea but a gift sent directly from the gods. The sea cannot claim what belongs to the heavens, she declared, silencing anyone who dared question her. Those who murmured about the strange storms or the child's powers were dismissed as superstitious fools. In secret, Oluchi even consulted the kingdom's most powerful Aboram priest, seeking spells and protections that would ensure Adana remained hers. She performed rituals, offered sacrifices, and burned sacred herbs, all to fortify her claim over the child. She would not allow the sea, or anyone else, to take her precious daughter. Her obsession deepened. She began to withdraw from the court, dedicating her days to watching over Adana, ensuring no one came too close. The child, now a young girl, grew curious about the world beyond the palace walls, but her questions were met with stern refusals. "You are safest here with me," Oluchi would say, though it was her own fears and greed that kept the child imprisoned. The signs of the sea's wrath grew more alarming with each passing day. The coastal waters churned with unnatural ferocity, and the once abundant fish disappeared, leaving the kingdom's fishermen with empty nets. Crops near the shore turned brittle, the salt water seeping into the earth. The villagers begged their queen to return the child, but Oluchi stood her ground, her heart hardened by her obsession. "This child is my gift," she repeated to herself like a mantra. "The sea cannot take her from me." Even as her advisors warned of an impending calamity, Oluchi refused to budge. "You think you can scare me with stories of curses and spirits," she scoffed. "I am the queen of this land, and no one, not the sea, not the gods, can take what is mine." Her stubbornness alienated her court and sowed fear among the people. Rumors began to spread, "The queen's greed will bring ruin to us all." But Queen Oluchi, consumed by her desire to hold on to Adana, ignored the cries of her people and the warnings of the spirits. Queen Oluchi's greed blinded her to the truth that Adana was not a gift to be hoarded but a being of her own destiny. Her refusal to heed the warnings, her selfishness, and her obsession with power led her to defy forces far beyond her control. By the time she realized her mistake, the sea's wrath had grown unstoppable, and her kingdom would pay the ultimate price for her refusal to let go. "The land has taken what belongs to us," Neoma declared, her voice echoing through the underwater chambers. "We will show them the power of the sea." One moonless night, the sea unleashed its full wrath. A monstrous storm descended upon Alaoma with no warning. The wind screamed like 1,000 voices, tearing roofs from huts and uprooting trees. The rain fell in torrents, flooding the streets and drowning the crops. The waves surged inland, swallowing entire sections of the coastline. Villagers ran for shelter, but no place was safe from the relentless assault of water and wind. The ocean itself seemed to rise, a towering wall of water that crashed against the land, eroding the shores and claiming homes. Rivers overflowed, joining the sea's rampage, and the once fertile fields of Alaoma turned into desolate marshlands. The people of the kingdom cried out in terror, their voices drowned by the unending roar of the storm. In the midst of the chaos, strange and haunting figures appeared on the shore. They were the spirits of the sea, shimmering in the darkness like ghostly silhouettes. Their eyes glowed with an eerie blue light, and their voices carried the fury of the ocean. "Return the child, or this land will know no peace," they intoned, their voices blending with the crashing waves. Inside the palace, Queen Oluchi watched helplessly as the storm ravaged her kingdom. The very foundation of the royal chambers shook as waves licked at the edges of the palace grounds. Servants fled, and her advisors begged her to heed the sea's warning, but Oluchi refused to let go of her pride. She clutched Adana tightly, whispering to herself, "They will not take her. She is mine. She is my blessing." But deep down, the queen felt the weight of her guilt. She knew the storm was no natural phenomenon. It was a reckoning, a punishment for her defiance. Yet, her greed would not allow her to admit her mistake. She ordered her guards to block the palace gates, as if mere stone walls could keep the sea at bay. As the storm raged on, the sea unleashed horrors that no one in Alauma had ever seen. Giant sea creatures emerged from the waves, their forms both magnificent and terrifying. Crabs the size of boulders scuttled onto the shore, snapping their claws at anything in their path. Serpentine figures with shimmering scales slithered through the floodwaters, their glowing eyes searching for the queen. The villagers huddled in fear, praying to the gods for mercy, but none came. At the height of the storm, the ocean itself seemed to come alive. A colossal wave rose, higher than the palace towers, and within it was the figure of Neoma, her golden tail gleaming like a beacon of power. Her presence silenced the storm for a brief moment as her voice rang out. Queen Oluchi, your greed has brought ruin upon your people. The sea is merciful, but only to those who show respect. Return my child now, or the waves will claim all that you hold dear. The queen, trembling, clutched Adana tighter. But as Neoma's glowing eyes locked with hers, a crack formed in her resolve. She could feel the weight of the sea's wrath bearing down on her, but her pride still refused to yield. When Queen Oluchi remained silent, the sea unleashed its final blow. The ground beneath the palace began to tremble, and cracks appeared in the walls as the waters surged higher and higher. The mighty palace, a symbol of the queen's power, was no match for the relentless force of the ocean. Waves crashed through the gates, flooding the royal chambers and washing away everything in their path. The queen tried to flee with Adana, but the water caught her, dragging her to the ground. As she struggled, Adana looked at her with sorrowful eyes. "Mama," the girl said softly, "I must go. I belong to the sea." Before Oluchi could respond, the ocean pulled Adana from her arms. The child was carried gently toward Neoma, who wrapped her daughter in a protective embrace. The queen's cries were drowned by the roar of the waves as the sea began to recede, taking with it its queen, her child, and the wrath it had unleashed. As Adana disappeared into the waves with her mother, the storm subsided. The palace was left in ruins, and Queen Oluchi was left to reflect on her actions. She spent the rest of her days warning others about the consequences of greed and the importance of respecting the balance between the land and the sea. The villagers, too, learned to honor the ocean and its mysteries, offering sacrifices to Neoma to ensure peace between the two realms. And on moonlit nights, fishermen claimed to see Adana swimming near the shore, her laughter echoing across the waves, a reminder of the queen who dared to steal from the sea. When the storm finally subsided, the kingdom of Alauma was left in ruins. The coastline had been reshaped, entire villages swept away. The once prosperous land was now a desolate wasteland. Queen Oluchi, broken and alone, was found among the wreckage, staring out at the ocean with hollow eyes. She had lost everything, her kingdom, her people, and the child she had so selfishly clung to. The villagers rebuilt what they could, but the memory of the sea's vengeance lingered. They made offerings to Neoma every year, praying for calm waters and fertile lands. And they told the story of Queen Oluchi as a cautionary tale, a warning of what happens when greed blinds the heart and the sea is disrespected.